Hello, my name's Jupiter Hadley, and today we're doing something a bit different. It's a podcast type thing called What's Indie News. I'm here with Kemp.
I'm Kemp. I used to make YouTube videos. These days I run a website called Save State where I post up indie gaming news and reviews.
And Joseph.
Hey, I'm Joseph. I am a games researcher and dev, and I generally just mess around the industry learning about games and stuff.
And we're going to be doing some sort of podcast about indie gaming news. The aim of this podcast is to sort of highlight the ongoings in the indie gaming community specifically, as opposed to like all of the gaming community. This is our first episode, so we'll see how it goes, and hopefully we're able to grow with you guys and with your feedback. And there are quite a few different things we're going to be talking about, starting off with major news points within the industry. Then we're going to talk about some of our favorite indie games and some new indie game releases. We're going to talk about some things to look out for in the future, as well as some exciting charity-related things, and just some fun news and other talking points. So yeah, let's get started.
Alright, so first piece of news was that OpenFor has returned to distribution. So if you're not aware, OpenFor is probably the GTA modding tool that many developers use to implement and create their own modifications for GTA 4 and 5. After a cease and desist letter was given to them from Take-Two on the 14th of June, they've actually, as of the 3rd of July, their website now has their download link again, and Rockstar has issued a statement saying, after discussions with Take-Two has agreed that it generally will not take legal action against third-party projects involving Rockstar's PC games that are single-player, non-commercial, and respect the intellectual property rights of third parties. So that's really good news. I don't know if anyone noticed when the original statement from Take-Two was sent out and the cease and desist, but Rockstar went from a generally positive review of over 90% to less than 20% within 24 hours. So I think that sent a bit of a message.
It's intense.
Yeah, I'm sure that had nothing to do with their sudden reversal.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
So the modding community is quite big, and having games that you can mod and you can sort of change seems to be a big deal. It's nothing I've never actually got into using mods or creating mods myself, but it definitely adds a lot to a game, doesn't it?
Well, that's why if you look at the comments from the Steam page, is that most of the people were commenting saying that, I got GTA 5 on Xbox and decided to get it on PC for the modding, and were very disappointed that it wasn't allowed anymore. And you'll find that a lot of, especially content creators, have revolved around GTA 5 mods, and so it was a huge thing that hit a lot of people. So the feedback on it was incredible, really. Personally, I'm a big fan of the mods. I use a lot of GTA mods, so I was very pleased to hear that. I don't know about you guys if you mod a lot of games and stuff, but I think it's a really good thing for the community.
I mean, I'm not so much into mods these days, and this is going to age me. When I was younger, I used to play around a lot with Tiberian Sun mods and writing my own mods, and I think I got more enjoyment out of creating and using mods than from the actual base game, so I can see where the fans are coming from.
I've not used mods or created mods, but I went to a talk very recently at Develop Brighton. They spoke about how some developers should look into sort of allowing mods to be a part of their game because of the longevity it can bring to indie games and the amount of content not necessarily created by the development team that can be made that adds to the game. So I find it a bit baffling that GTA would be like, oh no, you can't mod our game after being able to mod your game, and so many people have had fun creating mods and playing with mods. I know my brother does. So I don't know, it's just weird. It sounds very weird to me.
No, it was an interesting move. I imagine the main point, because the reason they gave out was that they were worried about the multiplayer aspect of it, because they have shark cards, they have a lot of microtransactions in there, so they were worried about mods potentially leaking over into multiplayer, despite the fact OpenFor has had very little. I think it even restricts multiplayer modding, so it was really interesting that they went for OpenFor rather than anything else, but I think it's because OpenFor counts for probably about 60-70% of the modding community for GTA games.
So just stomp out the biggest one and hope that the rest fizzle out.
Yeah, but that's very good to hear, though. Very good for modders as well.
Yes.
So the next piece of news came out on the 4th of July 2017 that Sumo Digital acquired the art studio Atomhawk. You may have heard of Sumo Digital.
They created Snake Pass. That's their current game.
Yeah, exactly. And Atomhawk probably may not have heard of, but their portfolio include concept art and animation for Injustice 2, marketing art for Sniper Elite 4, and UX/UI for Conan Exiles. And the interesting thing is that Atomhawk is still independent in its operations. However, according to the CEO of Sumo Digital, Carl Cavers, Atomhawk and Sumo Digital have a long-standing relationship and look forward to realizing their shared vision of creating a powerhouse for high-quality creative and development services that will benefit current and future clients across all sectors. Personally, I've not really heard of Atomhawk, but it's interesting to see Sumo Digital grow as much as it has done.
So this statement here, are they basically thinking of hiring out Atomhawk, do you think, to other studios?
Potentially, yeah. So they've said that it's still independent in its operations, but I imagine that Sumo Digital now has a huge say in
AAA.
both supporting Atomhawk. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's very interesting. Sumo Digital I had not heard of before Snake Pass, and then I started seeing them pop up at EGX and EGX Rezzed and in the indie area with this amazing, brilliant game. And it turned out Snake Pass was made at an in-house game jam game, which really sparked my interest in the studio. And it's really good that they're growing and getting to the point where they can sort of buy into bigger things.
Yeah, well, they're currently also working on Crackdown 3 and Dead Island 2 as well. So it's pretty incredible to see kind of, a company that I think came from self-publishing and still self-publishes to starting to work on AAA titles from Microsoft and Koch Media, I think it is. Or is it Koch Media?
I think it's the hard K at the end.
Pronunciations of words are the worst.
Yeah. There was a joke back in the day when they were distributing something related to the Wii, which, of course, made it extra humorous for people.
Yeah, I remember when the Wii came out and everyone was joking about the name.
I don't know, I must have missed people joking about the name Wii. But yeah, no, I totally
What was the old
You're
name?
right.
Was it the the development name for the Wii? Was it Revolution, or it had a good name?
Yeah, I think it did, actually.
I mean, this is an old topic to dig back up, I guess, but
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever find it, maybe. But I think it was something that was kind of really interesting and out there rather than Wii.
I will look this up while the discussion continues and no doubt jump in out of nowhere with the answer.
the Wii was made back in 2006.
It's an old console now, yeah.
11 years.
Here we are, Revolution. Yeah, it was the Nintendo Revolution. So their position was, Revolution as a name is not ideal. It's long and in some cultures it's hard to pronounce. So basically they wanted something short to the point, easy to pronounce. And then they ended up with Wii.
Yeah, that's actually quite a good name for those circumstances, really.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it easy to pronounce for just about anyone, I guess.
Yeah, true. I can't imagine many syllabaries that don't have something like Wii in it.
And it's like a very one note, easy to remember sort of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like anything else either. Revolution.
Revolution. I do like Revolution, though.
Yeah, I think we've deviated as far from current indie gaming news as possible at this point. But we'll be discussing the original Xbox next.
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump into the next one, which actually is about a new platform called Jump launching into beta, which has been described as the Netflix for indie games. So this was on the 7th of July. According to Gamasutra, Jump is aiming to become an on-demand multi-platform game subscription service where subscribers will pay $10 a month for access to a library of games. On day of launch, it had a highly curated library between 60 to 100 games. The thing is, they're mainly focusing on indie games as well. So it's an interesting take on it, because I guess it's almost a logical follow-through of being like, oh, there's a Netflix, there's like a subscription service for TV and films, why not games?
But correct me if I'm wrong, we have this already, don't we? Because like Hubble Bundle, it's not quite the same. Hubble Bundle sort of has like its subscription service where you get indie games each month, and then we've got not specifically indie games, but doesn't Xbox do a thing where you get so many games each month, and like loads of websites do it as well, because there's quite a few websites I could sign up to because I've been advertised them, where I could get just access to a load of indie games for a set amount each month.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering
EA
if this one will just... Sorry?
Sorry, I was going to say EA have their own thing as well, where you get access to a certain set of games each month.
So I wonder if the difference will be that they're highly curated, and I wonder what that means when it comes to the actual games that are going to end up being on it.
I imagine the article goes into great depths about it, not the amount of depths that we could really cover in a podcast.
See, the part that worries me is when they say that the devs will be paid based on the proportion of time played in the game compared to other games, which surely that is a big encouragement to just pad out the length of any games that you're going to try to get into this service. So it'll be really a disadvantage if you've got a short game, which, I mean, we have a lot of those in indie gaming, just the very short sort of experience ones. And I don't see them doing well on this platform at all.
So yeah, there's a quote which says, we're planning to take 70% of the net revenue of the total subscription income and divvy that up and pay that to developers based on a proportion of how much time their game gets played versus the total amount of time that all games get played in the platform. So devs get 70%, but it's highly dependent on the amount of time people play on their games, which is, I guess, like any system, it can be gamed, but potentially a system that could be gamed. You know, if you build a game that's super long with lots of procedural generation rather than a short, sweet story, then you'll probably get a lot more for it.
Yeah, so it's going to really heavily favour the sort of roguelikes and so on, rather than the sort of half an hour sort of narrative stories that you're meant to experience in one go, and then that's the end, basically.
Looking at the screenshot of what they have on the Jump platform, they have Sproggywood is the only one that I recognize, like, right off the bat. And Sproggywood is, like, a really long game, because I picked it up on Steam and played a little bit of it, and it's quite addictive in the way that it gives you quests. The pacing in it is right on point for someone like me, and I ended up playing quite a lot of time into it. So I can see that game working out really well. I wonder if they're going to pick games that do have just long playtime, and if there's not going to be games that are shorter experiences, because I don't see the benefit to the developer of putting their game on if it's a shorter experience.
Yeah, it's almost not even worth pitching to them to have your game.
I find it interesting that they're calling it like Netflix.
Exactly. I was just going to say that I see one of the screenshots always sometimes monsters on there, which is generally quite... It's a very story-driven game, but it's quite a long game as well. Well, what I'd say for a long game, at least anyway, and it has possibilities of multiple playthroughs, diverging storylines. So it'll be interesting to see the kind of games they attract, because they seem to be from what I can tell from the article, at least anyway, they talk a lot about how they're worried about this purchase anxiety. So kind of Steam being flooded with all these indie titles that are potentially very low quality, and people kind of being very nervous about buying them, but now you're not actually buying them, you're paying a subscription and have access to any number of them, then you don't really have this purchase anxiety anymore. But like we were saying, there are potential flaws on it, and so personally I'd be very interested to see how it goes. I don't know how I feel about it, but I'm hoping that'll be quite nice if it does well, because I potentially would be quite interested in signing up for something like this, but that's because I like to play lots of quick games, like play a couple hours of a game and then go on to the next one. So for me it'll be like really good.
I like Netflix.
If only they had a Rick and Morty kind of thing on Jump, and then I'd play it immediately.
It's a very similar thing to Netflix and Humble Monthly and so on that I assume they're going for, where once they get your subscription in, people generally don't cancel those. Like you find it hard to say each month, okay, I'm going to buy this game, I'm going to buy this game, I'm going to buy this game. But it's a lot easier to say, well, I'm paying for this service, and here's a bunch of games. So it's a much more guaranteed revenue stream.
Okay. Oh yeah, just a quick one that actually might segue into our next story very well. They were saying that in particular they give a plugin, which is essentially a prefab you drop into your first scene, then write about 4 lines of code, and this is kind of integrating it into Jump. So it looks like they made it very easy for developers, especially, well, at least with Unity, to just pick it up, to say, okay, I want to build it for Jump, and then you throw a prefab in. So it's actually very easy to put into something like Jump. So that's quite cool.
It's quite alluring for developers.
Yeah, So yeah, quite alluring. Just especially when you have a Unity built game, in that you don't have to recode it or restructure it. You just throw this prefab in, write 4 lines apparently, and you're done. Which I think is probably quite good. Actually, is a very good way of enticing developers from Unity, at least anyway.
I don't think we mentioned actually talking about this is how you get games onto the service, because they're doing a sort of a web-based approach, aren't they? Where it's not that the game's downloaded to you or streamed to you, but it's essentially a web build of the game that you play, I guess essentially online, but within their own custom player.
Yeah, so you kind of download it, especially within chunks, as far as they were saying, which is interesting how they divide those chunks. But yeah, so it'd be interesting to see how that goes. Should we segue into the next story, because it actually, talking about Unity, lands us very nicely into the next big news, which is Unity 2017.1 launched. This was on the 11th of July. So the main features that it's added is a timeline and a cinemachine feature that allow developers to plan scenes like a storyboard without coding requirements. And it also includes new analytical tools. However, especially a lot of the new analytical tools, are behind the Extra Plus service. So you have Personal, which is free, which has always been free, so that's good. And then you have $35 a month for the Plus service, which allows for development on all platforms. And then you have the $135 a month service that will include a full analytics package, performance reporting, and Unity Ads monetization platform. So it's interesting to see how that goes. I feel like every time they release a new patch, there's usually not things that go wrong, but things that affect developers for changing onto different builds.
Oh yes. Anytime any engine updates, it's a bit of a mess at first for developers, especially developers currently developing on that platform.
Yeah, every update,
exactly.
My whole Twitter feed is just developers complaining about things that are broken now.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I've not actually jumped onto it yet because I have some stuff that I don't really want to ruin at the moment until I'm pretty happy with how it's going. And some things I might never even jump onto it yet with.
Have you used Unity before?
Yeah, I use Unity a lot. It's probably my main platform I use for making my own games. And I've been really liking it, and I'm really interested to see, especially Timeline and Cinemachine, because I honestly wouldn't know how I'd do kind of cutscenes and stuff beforehand, but I think this would be a really interesting tool to use, especially without having to code manually how the storyboard goes.
While we're on New Unity, actually, sorry to interrupt there.
No, it's fine.
I just recalled, came across my feed today that there's an option. I think it's analytics related, where people basically saying that if you turn that off, it'll stop people getting the annoying firewall prompt the first time they launch a game, especially for VR devs, where potentially the person can't even properly get to their machine to cancel or accept that prompt. So that's on by default, and people will always get that firewall warning.
Oh, that's really good then.
To just be able to tick it off, that's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, it's hidden there in the options, you can just turn that off.
Okay, that's good. I should probably actually check that out. I get that a lot with Bullguard. But yeah, next story. The headline is Location-Based Augmented Reality Games Now Protected by First Amendment. So this was on the 21st of July, and a court ruling in the United States has been hailed as a victory for developers making augmented reality games, deeming it impossible to enforce restrictions on AR and location-based titles, as the US court found it unconstitutional to enforce these restrictions. And the case mainly centers around Milwaukee County versus the developers Pokemon Go and Niantic, as they adopted an AR ordinance back in February demanding developers behind games such as Pokemon Go purchase a permit before their apps could be used in the county's parks, which was interesting. And what I found really interesting actually as well was the Milwaukee County was asking devs to estimate crowd size, as well as the dates and times these crowds were likely to descend upon the parks, and the studios were also required to handle on-site security, medical services, garbage collection, and even bathroom use.
That's hilarious.
I know.
And I believe there's an upfront $1,000 fee as well on top of all that.
Oh yeah, there is, isn't there? Yep.
That's ridiculous. Can you imagine? Can you imagine having to estimate when you think people are going to come to a location? Like, if they had to do that for every location ever in the world, and then also, have medical services and security. That'd be mental.
I know. Imagine, like, just somehow randomly people start congregating somewhere. You could potentially get people calling you, being like, "Hey, there are lots of people here. Where are the medical services?" And you'll be like, "I had no idea people were going to go there."
Like, I'm not even doing anything. There's no gym there. What are you on about?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I am mistaken, by the way. It wasn't between Niantic and Milwaukee County. It was between Candy Lab and Milwaukee County for their title Texas Rope'em, which was a poker-themed title with location-based and augmented reality functions, which is also very interesting, because I would have thought it'd be Niantic.
Yeah, apparently
Yeah.
I don't know American places, but yeah, the appropriate authority that's trying to enforce this, they were not nice about Texas Rope'em. They are disputing it at the moment on the basis the game does not convey any messages or ideas, and unlike books, movies, music, plays, and video games, it has no plot, no storylines, no characters, and no dialogue. So they don't think it should have any First Amendment protections.
That's really interesting. We're deciding this isn't good enough to be protected under the First Amendment because it's not anything. What?
Wow.
Ah.
I'm just reading the statement. That is very harsh.
Yeah, all it conveys is a random...
All it conveys is a random display of cards and a map.
How dare your thing just display cards and a map. It's really what's happened here is the guy who owns that land just doesn't like the game. And he's like, oh, fuck up.
Potentially, yeah. That would be funny. This is
It's
my
probably
idea
some
first.
sort of like... It's probably some sort of like gambling game or something, Texas Rope'em. And he's probably like, yeah, people have lost money in this. I had a gambling problem. Hate this game. It's not even a real game.
God. I bet there's not even real money lost in it as well. He just thought it was because it was gambling.
It sounds really comical. I mean, it's probably a pain for the people going through it, but it's pretty comical to me. The actual game, Texas Rope'em, only has one review on Google Play, and it's just 5 stars. There's nothing said about it or anything.
This is a really weird one for them to pick on.
Yeah, and it's incredible that that company are willing to go through a is it a civil suit or no? It's a lawsuit. Yeah, a lawsuit to actually protect that right.
I mean, they have 67 Twitter followers. This isn't a very big game.
Whoa,
What?
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I wonder if I don't know if their previous games might have factored into a decision. They've got a very odd mix looking at their listings here.
This game is currently only available in Austin, Texas. Why are they messing around with it and what?
This is Wisconsin.
You can't play the game in Wisconsin!
What
you
is
can only
that?
play it... What?
There's got to be some history between someone in the local government there and someone at the developers.
It says on their app store,
I'm having a look at their site.
this is a location-based game and is only available in Austin, Texas. In one city in Texas is where you can play this location-based. Yet some people in Wisconsin have decided to, like, what? Take them to court over it? Over a game they can't use?
It's my favorite story by far. Actually, second favorite story. I have a favorite coming down later.
Oh.
That just completely threw me apart because I kind of thought, yeah, it makes sense with like Pokemon Go and everything. But this is a tiny game that doesn't actually work in their state.
You realise if the developers if someone at Candy Lab is listening to this podcast, we've now lost them as a listener.
I mean, I'm sorry you're going through this, Candy Labs, but I mean, what?
I mean, good on you for picking this battle. It's just crazy that you're making this battle, though. But well, good on you if you're listening.
I'm gonna tag them in it. They'll listen.
Tag, yeah, that's it. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, off of that, like, mystery, and onto a selection of indie game releases that looked very interesting.
I had to look through various articles and even through the Steam new releases. I think it was about 20 or 30 odd pages in a month.
Fun.
I thought I'd pick out some that really stood out to me and stood out to the community as well. And if you two have any extras that you wanted to bring up, or you have any opinions on these, then feel free to jump in and let me know, because these are basically my picks rather than ours. So I'm sure you guys have some interesting thoughts on some as well. So the first one is The End is Nigh, and that was released on the 12th, and it was created by Edmund McMillan. If that name sounds familiar, he is one of the creators of Super Meat Boy, and The End is Nigh is a very similar feel. And so it was made by Edmund McMillan and programmer and designer Tyler Glales. I'm sorry if I've completely butchered that surname, but they worked together to build a game that is very similar to Super Meat Boy. It's basically adventure platformer where you die a lot is the tagline, but the rest of the tagline is, but that's okay because you're probably already dead anyway. And the main difference between the two is The End is Nigh is far more focused on exploration and puzzle-based level design, such to the point it's very close to a Metroidvania style game. And it's currently sitting at 93% on Steam, very, very positive review, and it's out, obviously available now, for £10.99. I don't know if you two have heard of this game before or have heard anything about it.
Not personally.
So, I really love Binding of Isaac, and Edmund made Binding of Isaac, and it's my favorite game ever. That's not true, it's not my favorite game ever. However, it is like my most long-term played game on my Steam library. I didn't like Super Meat Boy.
Ooh.
So when I heard that there was another Super Meat Boy-esque platform, I was like, meh. I've played a little bit of Super Meat Boy, and I just get frustrated. I don't like rage platformers because I die. And I don't like dying like that. Now, Binding of Isaac, I can play through Binding of Isaac without dying, like 4 times in a row. I'm down.
Wow.
I am so good at Binding of Isaac.
That's impressive.
I used to just reflex almost play through Binding of Isaac in just sittings and play through the whole game and finish it in like half an hour. Normally I'd go the devil route. But enough about my love of Binding of Isaac. This game looks pretty interesting. I very much like all of the particle effects and just the like more refined beauty almost of The End is Night. I don't know why there's no T on the end of night.
Oh,
that kind of annoys me.
Approaching.
Well, I think it's End is Nigh.
Sorry?
I think it's the Nigh as in soon.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. I like this whole concept of having cartridges in your game that make the game look more retro. So it kind of looks almost like a hand-drawn-esque sort of cubey platformer. And then it looks like if you get cartridges, it becomes like a way more pixelated, old-school feel, almost stretch TV-looking type game. And I kind of like that juxtaposition between two different art styles.
No, I do as well. I think, and also they're quite coherent as well, considering they're different as well resolutions, but still coherently very similar. And it reminds me of the puzzle game with the I can't remember, the World of Goo. That's it. Also reminds me of World of Goo in some ways,
as well, yeah.
Which I really like the style of. I wish I played more of it, but I really enjoyed World of Goo, and so this one looks really interesting. But that was the first.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, movement in the game. I'm watching the trailer while you talk there. It's really fluid.
It's interesting because if. Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say that the movement, the whole design of movement isn't super fast like Super Meat Boy's, because you don't have wall jumps. All you do is you grab onto ledges, and then jump off from the ledges. And that's kind of the main change.
It's so pretty. It's such a pretty game.
We do like pretty games.
I know.
I love pretty games. I just love pretty games. But yes, Serial Cleaner was the next one on your list.
Serial Cleaner, yes.
And that looks super interesting as well.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So it's another unique art style. So Serial Cleaner is a game released by iFun for All, which is a Poland-based studio. I think you were saying Jupiter. And published by Curve Digital, who have also worked on Hue, Stickbold, and Human Fall Flat. Which is a really funny game, and it's got mostly positive. It's got very positive reviews, about 83%. And the game itself is, from the Steam page, it says, step into the polished shoes of the cleaner, a professional crime scene cleaner for the mob. There's no business like the cleaning business, and right now, business is booming. Sneak around crime scenes, avoiding detection from the guarding cops as you vacuum up blood, hide bodies, and remove evidence in this 70s-styled, fast-paced 2D action stealth game.
So I really like the look of this game.
Yeah, it's a really cool art style. I'm guessing you will have it up on the screen right now.
Oh, yes.
If you're watching on YouTube, that is. If not, I'd recommend having a look at the page. It's, even if you don't buy the game, it's actually a really cool art style.
So the developers, they've said some really interesting things about this game, because it's placed in the 70s, and it looks like it looks like a game in the 70s. Like, the cars are old school cars, the people are kind of dated, and they were like, yeah, the reason we have it in the 70s is because that's the best time to have serial killers, because we weren't able to like really investigate things. So the idea is you're just hired to clean up messes left behind by serial killers while the police are investigating. So you just quickly like get rid of all of the blood and hide the bodies and then get paid for it and move on with your life, because it's the 70s and we can't search DNA or fingerprints. And I think that's hilarious and amazing and such a cool and clever way to justify the fact that these police aren't going to catch you. And there's 20 different modes in this game, which is there's like story mode, which will take you through the story of how you became a cleaner. And then there's like tons of challenges where like the whole game's in black and white and you have to like figure out what you need to clean up and what you don't. There's like a hardcore mode where you don't see sort of the area that that police can see you in, and you don't have any prompts to interact, so you have to just memorize what you're supposed to do with everything and just try really hard.
That's speedrun material then.
It looks like... Yeah, that'd be very good for speedrunning, wouldn't it?
Oh, I would like to watch speedrunning of this.
Speedrunning of cleaning up blood.
Well, when you say it like that, it sounds a lot worse.
Well, it's kind of like, what is it? Visceral's cleanup detail, or however you say the first word in that sentence?
Visceral.
Yeah.
Is it Viscera? Viscera cleanup detail.
But with more meaning.
Yeah, and probably, I would say Viscera isn't fun, but kind of more... It's normal fun, I'd say.
Yeah,
I get oddly satisfied by Viscera cleanup detail.
It's one of those games where it's very relaxing because there's no opposing forces, but then there's going to be one spot you've missed, and you're going to get so frustrated trying to find that spot.
I was going to say, especially when you have run-throughs which are like, hey, you can't use the mess detector. So you're like, oh, where the hell is a stain? Looking around an entire map. Looking for like one little speck of blood somewhere, and then you get there and you spill your bucket,
and then you rage quit.
You always spill your bucket. I've never made it far enough to only have one spot left. I give up. It's just...
it's just my job here is done. Just clock out, go home.
Sorry, move on,
like
guys. We're really worried. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see a sort of development studio from somewhere where you don't hear a lot about games. I haven't heard a lot of games coming from Poland. It might just be my scope of looking at indie games tends to be indie games from around England and around America, because that's where I've been based. But it was just really interesting hearing that they were from Poland.
Yeah, I don't hear many indie stuff. I know CD Projekt Red. Is it Poland? I could be completely wrong. I'm actually going to double check because I don't want to upset anyone by saying the wrong place. Yeah, Polish. Yeah, so they're Polish as well. But yeah, in terms of indie, it's interesting to hear it coming from Poland. I imagine it might be an up-and-coming place. Who knows? But anyway, on to the next release is Yonder, the Cloud Catcher Chronicles. Now, I don't know too much of how this game works. It seems like an adventure game, but the art style is gorgeous. It is amazing. I feel like I've mainly picked games with amazing art styles. So let's give a brief description from the Steam page. Yonder is set on the vast island of Jamia, a lush frontier with 8 distinct environments ranging from tropical beaches to snow-capped summits. Each location has its own flora and fauna, along with changing seasons and a day-night cycle. Jameer, once a paradise, still maintains the appearance of one, yet an evil murk has enshrouded the land and its people in despair. As the hero, you will explore Jameer, uncovering the island's secrets and the mysteries within yourself as you embark on a journey of self-discovery. On a quest to become the island's champion, you join forces with the sprites, creatures who are the only thing capable of dispersing the murk, to save Jameer and its people. So you're going on a gap year then? Is that what the self-discovery bit is?
Yeah, it's just a gap year. It's just a beautiful gap year.
Exactly.
This is like a 3D game. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful graphics, beautiful lighting.
Certainly
And
has
it
a
looks
lot of
like you're
colour.
just...
I say
Sorry?
it certainly has a lot of colour. It's a very bright game.
Oh, yes. And it looks like you're just exploring like mysterious, sort of whimsical lands.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be too much kind of opposing you. Looking at the features, you have a vibrant open world full of things to discover and places to explore. Set your own pace, trailblaze across the world, or settle down for a spot of quiet fishing and farming. Master professions like carpenter, chef, tailor, and more. Craft and trade items to solve puzzles. Befriend and adopt endearing creatures. Build and harvest multiple farms across 8 diverse biomes, multiple creative routes to achieve objectives, and a dynamic living world.
Looks
It seems
amazing.
kind of like it looks. I'm very tempted to pick it up. It's $18.99. That's pounds. At the moment.
It's $25.
$25. Have you got the American Steam up?
Oh, my Steam is American, so
Ah, fair enough. That's good.
I'm staring at it, adding this game to my wish list, and yeah.
Looks like the sort of game you could relax in there.
That's a good point.
Mm.
Yeah, I do quite like those. Alright, so the next big thing, probably a lot of people may have heard of this, is Behold the Kickmen.
Oh, this looks hilarious.
I don't know if you guys have heard of Behold the Kickmen.
Yes.
Do you guys know the premise behind Behold the Kickmen?
He doesn't know much about soccer.
Yeah.
And the whole game, it started as a joke, I believe, did it not? On Twitter, just basically saying,
Yeah, it was a Twitter joke, I think.
Here's a football game and just basically showing GIFs of things that look nothing like football.
Yes, it was. So they developed it from a game jam. Originally, I don't know which game jam. Well, actually, no. It started as a Twitter joke, and then turned into a game jam item, and then they fully developed it and fleshed it out. But the main premise is that this is football made by someone who has no idea how football works.
And made it much better in the process. Not that I'm biased
Yes.
against football.
Yeah,
or anything.
exactly.
But it's kind of shit.
Exactly. It's very cheap as well. It's £2.79, £2.79, and it's generally received extremely well on Steam. 96% positive, especially of 200 odd reviews. And to be honest, I don't know what else to say of it except that it's basically like a fun version of football where someone had no idea how football works.
So I heard about this game because Dan Marsh tweets a lot about, well, has in the upcoming months this game, tweeted a lot about how he didn't know about football, but he's making a football game. We call this soccer. And I was like, what's going on? I don't like soccer. But his tweets were funny, so I continued following it. And just the trailer video for this is hilarious. It, like, states that it has all of the things that you would want in soccer, like kissing, doing goals, running around a lot, and it's funny. This looks amazing. It looks kind of like it's got narrative aspects to it that are hilarious. If you're into sports or if you're not into sports, it's a game that you can play and just have a good time with either way.
Yeah, it is single player only though. I'll mention that. It says here on the Steam page, please note Kickmen has no online multiplayer, no local multiplayer. But it looks like a really fun game to just mess around with. Another chill game, I'd say.
It's good. A couple of chill games are always good.
Yeah, exactly. And the next game is probably one everyone's heard of and knows about and probably already has. Pyre. If you haven't heard of Pyre, then where have you been? Pyre is Supergiant Games' newest release, and you may have heard of Supergiant Games before. They've made Bastion and Transistor, and Pyre has been a highly anticipated title both online and with nearly everyone I know who's into games. It came out on the 25th of July. Currently stands 87% on Steam, and as a basic description from the Steam page, Pyre is a party-based RPG in which you lead a band of exiles to freedom through ancient competitions spread across a vast mystical purgatory. Who shall return to glory, and who shall remain in exile to the end of their days? I don't know if you two have either played this or know much about it.
Have you heard of Pyre, Kemp?
I've heard of it. I haven't really looked into it much myself. It definitely has that sort of Bastion and Transistor aesthetic to it, though. Can tell that straight away.
I've not heard of it because I don't like RPGs.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
So the insults at the beginning, ouch.
Yeah, me saying everyone's heard of it, actually no.
I'm just sitting here going, not until today.
Not until today. I'm like, oh no, I'm wrong. People I've spoken to at least have all know about Pyre. I don't know many people who've actually bought it, but I know a lot of people who know about it and want to buy it. And I think the main way that combat, in inverted commas, works is that it's kind of like a sport game that I don't know it too well. It's almost like handball or basketball or something, but with some interesting little quirks.
You don't play a quick Behold the Kickmen minigame, do you?
It's just you have to buy a copy of Kickmen with Pyre, and it launches it. But love it, and it's also generally review-wise, it's got 9s, if not more. And people have been saying it's probably Supergiant's best work, including Bastion and Transistor.
Sounds like a lovely game then.
Yeah, it looks it. It's got a really nice art style. Me and the art styles. Oh, I need to pick games that don't just have good art styles.
Well, here's the thing about art styles in games. That's essentially the game's face. And if a game has an attractive face, you're going to go more towards it. So it's completely valid to pick games based on how they look. It's something that the aesthetic of a game should be thought about in detail and at length, especially during the beginning stages of creating a game. Especially with the number of games that are out there nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, you get one first impression, as they say.
A little tangent
That's
right
true.
there.
He's hit the nail on the head, because I imagine if I look at a game and don't think it looks that great, I'm probably, unless someone tells me I should pick it up, I probably won't, which is very shallow, but I've been proven wrong before.
Yeah, I mean it's important these days. Like Jupiter said, there's so many games. You have to pick somehow, don't you?
Yeah. Well, going through the new releases for the past month, there are so many, so many games that are just released all the time, and it's good that we can hopefully try and highlight something that you might be interested in. I try to go for a bit of a diverse range of different genres and types, and the next one that I had a look at is an adventure kind of game. So this one's called The Low Road, and it's been developed by XGen Studios, who developed a game called Super Motherload. I don't know if you guys have heard of it previously, but it's got a really cool, interesting art style, and it was released on the 26th of July. And from the Steam store page, set in the world of the 1970s automobile industry, The Low Road is a point-and-click graphic adventure game which follows a team of corporate spies dedicated to the protection and appropriation of game-changing industry secrets. Sporting a unique visual style inspired by gouache paintings and a pulsating rock and roll score, The Low Road will captivate players through intricate puzzles, branching moral dilemmas, and a quirky cast of memorable characters.
So this is another game set in the 1970s.
Exactly. That's another recurring theme too, actually. That's a good point. Serial Cleaner and
this game also has a female protagonist.
Two very different games.
And it seems very interesting.
Yes, indeed. I think female protagonist is. I think it's a duo of corporate spies. So you've got rookie agent Numi Kovacs. That's who you play as, actually. Yeah.
And it sounds like she doesn't get along with her partner in crime, partner in solving crime. Because I listened to the trailer video and there was a little bit of back and forth between her and the other main character. And she was like, well, if you trusted me more, I'd be able to do my job better. And he's like, well, I can't trust you. So it sounds like a very interesting sort of proving yourself type of deal.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to try it, to be honest. Because I'm a big fan of point and click. And I love the style.
Yes.
And then there are, since I said, like I said, there are so many, I thought I'd throw in some honorary mentions. that I thought deserved a bit of exposure. So on the 7th of July, we had Tig via Niemand, Time Waits for Nobody, which is an indie abstract adventure about time manipulation. So if you want something very odd and out there, that's for you. You've got Anti-Hero, came out on the 10th of July, a digital board game about running a thieves guild. I think it has online multiplayer as well, and I know NerdCube did a good video on it as well. There's Suicide Guy, came out on the 14th of July, which is a first-person action puzzle set in dreams. I think Jupiter, you were saying you've played it.
Yep. I've dipped into it. Each of the environments that you end up going through puzzles in are very, very different, but they're all linked together by the dreams that this guy is having. It's a very, very interesting game that doesn't have much to do with like suicide, really. You're just trying to die in the dreams so that you can wake up.
Yeah, so it's not actual suicide. It's kind of almost like Inception, trying to wake up from your dream
Before your beer falls.
Yeah, there's Old TV. Came out on the 14th of July. It's a simple puzzle. It's a mind game with simple puzzles, but it's very highly rated. It has very minimal information, and I think it's free actually. So I think it's worth a check. Yep, free, worth a checking. Kingsway came out on the 18th of July. It's an operating system based RPG. So if you're interested in quirky different RPGs, that's good for you. Strike Vector EX came out on the 19th of July, which is first-person aerial combat. For an indie studio, it looks pretty stunning. Then you've got Longsword Tabletop Tactics, came out on the 20th as well. It's basically a tabletop army building game with hex-based combat. You've got Sky Knights, which came out on the 27th. Top-down online multiplayer dogfighting. I think it's 4v4 multiplayer dogfighting. So it's kind of like simplified aerial combat, which I thought was really cool. You've got the Darkside Detective, which is another point and click, but it advertises itself as a micro adventure, which splits itself into cases. So if you want bite-sized point and click adventure rather than having to remember all the items you have and all the things you need to do between sessions, then I think that one's good. And then finally you have Immortal Planet, which came out on the 27th, which is a top-down action RPG with very challenging combat, made to be, from what I could tell, is very Souls-like. So if you're into that kind of thing, I'd recommend Immortal Planet. And another, I missed one out, Dream Daddy Dating Simulator. I think everyone's probably heard of that one. It came out on the 20th, developed by the YouTubers Game Grumps. I don't know if they developed it themselves, but it's developed under Game Grumps, and is a romance dating simulator for daddies trying to find other daddies to date.
And romance. Yes.
And romance, exactly. And that's the quick fire of games you should all try, or even have a look at at least. Anyone else? Do you guys have anything you want to mention?
I have a game listed in what you should look out for that I'm quite excited about, but no, I'm happy with those games.
Okay.
How are you,
Kemp, do you have any games that you've known about July?
I think that's a pretty good list there, to be honest.
Perfect.
Quite a variety of games and stuff to look for and to check out. No, it's a very nice variety.
Exactly.
So moving on from there, I'm going to be talking about some things to look out for. These are up-and-coming bits of news, I suppose. Kemp, would you like to read about some of these, or?
So I guess I'll just start in the order, because they're not in chronological order; they're just in any order. But Bloober, the developers behind Layers of Fear, an atmospheric horror game based around a mad painter's descent, have got their new Blade Runner-esque sci-fi horror adventure Observer coming out on the 15th of August. The brief description from it is the year 2084 and the world has turned to drugs, VR and neural implants. You are elite neural detective Daniel Lazarski, investigating a strange message sent by your estranged son, a high-level engineer working at the sinister Chiron Corporation. As you hack into the unstable minds of criminals and victims to look for clues, you are forced to relive their darkest fears. How far will you go to discover the truth? So I think it's a very similar vein to Layers of Fear, but potentially with some interesting game mechanics, I think. And I'm very interested in seeing how it goes because I'm a big fan of horror games, especially atmospheric horror games. And this looks super cool.
It definitely sounds like it could get fairly dark.
Yeah.
From that description.
It's the thing. I imagine if you're not really into that kind of stuff, I'd steer away from it.
I hate scary games. This game looks like it has jump scares. I don't like scary games with jump scares. Oh, thank you.
So with the mind hacking there, did either of you play Remember Me?
No.
I don't think I did.
So it's... I feel like this game might... So I should start. Remember Me had a sort of mind hacking thing where you have to go back and I guess sort of manipulate people's memories of previous events. But they didn't really take it as far as they could have done, it feels like. And it feels like this game might sort of just go that extra bit in sort of really making you, I guess, empathise with the people and sort of really see what's under the surface in their minds. I don't know, it's just the first game it made me think of there was Remember Me, just with that mechanic.
I remember it releasing, but I never looked at it.
Well, if you're interested in this game, that might be a game to check out in the meantime.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It looks too scary for me. Nope. Nope. As does the next game.
Sounds exactly like my kind of game. I'm actually very excited. To be fair, I didn't actually like Layers of Fear that much, but this one sounds more up my avenue, I think. Especially with the Blade Runner-esque theme.
Sort of post-apocalyptic almost. The whole world's gone quite badly. Everything's scary and futuristic. Nope.
Everyone's doing drugs in VR.
Let's go back to the 1970s games. Those
joystick games, we miss them.
It's the safest place to do drugs though, isn't it, in VR?
True. That's very true. Next game to come out, they haven't got a precise release date, but it's supposed to release soon. Soon is actually the ex-Hitman devs from IO Interactive. So I don't know if people know about this. Can't remember the story in detail, but I know either a lot of IO Interactive or IO Interactive as a whole was disbanded, and a lot of developers decided to leave and make their own studio. And this studio, Ultra, consisting of XIO and Hitman staff, is releasing their very first title called Echo. According to Kotaku, Ultra describes Echo as an unsettling, character-driven story of introspection and discovery, in which you take on the guise of N, a space traveler who, after a century in stasis, wakes inside the mysterious palace. This marvel of an ancient civilization, eons gone, still awaiting its first human occupants, houses long-forgotten technology that N hopes will bring back a life that should not have been lost. Sounds like a cool sci-fi adventure. Thing that's interesting for me is that apparently you get doppelgangers.
They're like clones of yourself, yeah?
Yeah, these are like clones of yourself that the world spawns in that duplicate your tactics, apparently. So it will learn and adapt to your strategies. So an example they give is if you sneak, they'll get stealthier. If you shoot, they'll start to shoot back, which as a big AI nerd, I'm very excited about.
Definitely sounds interesting. So basically, the better you play, the better your opponents will be.
Yeah, exactly. Which is an interesting way of doing it, because some companies have tried to make an AI that learns from you and gets better with the mistakes you make. So then what tends to happen is, if you're really bad and die a lot, the AI gets very smart because it knows what you're trying to do, and then you die even more. Whereas this one sounds quite interesting in that it's trying to level with the player rather than against the player. And I think
too hard, I'd die too much. And it looks a bit scary as well.
It does. It gives me like a very alien kind of aesthetic. Who's the artist behind kind of the alien aesthetic? I can't remember now, but
Geiger.
Yeah, that's it.
HR Geiger.
HR Geiger, that's it. Yeah.
Or Geiger? It must be Geiger.
I think it's Geiger, but it's very much.
That's how I've always said it.
It's like a really clean HR Geiger. So I definitely recommend giving that a look over. Okay, so this one has the wrong link on it. I'm gonna have to go get that.
The whole system breaks down. So while you search, this is City of Brass by the ex-Bioshock devs. X by Shop devs being Uppercut Games, not Undercut Games. Former 2K developers.
Yeah.
It's a first-person roguelite based on tales from Middle Eastern folklore.
It's always quite interesting when developers, when anything really, takes interpretations of fairy tales or folklore and creates more content around them. You sort of get to see older traditions and older ways of thinking in a newer light.
Yeah, I really love this setting. I really love
studied.
the environment. And also, isn't it? They're not robots, are they? They're kind of like skull, like demons. It looks like. But
they're really interesting looking.
yeah, it's supposed to come to PC this fall. Consoles, it'll probably come next year, from what I've seen. And also roguelite, I'll be interested to see how that goes, because now I've grown very wary of the name roguelite.
Yeah,
Because sometimes you make there are some really interesting roguelites, but sometimes I find they can be quite lacking.
I was just going to say the rogue suffix genre is very saturated these days.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some really good ones out there, but there are a lot of them.
Yes. I was going to say that this game specifically, you start over with a new procedurally generated city every time you die. So I find that quite interesting because I don't like dying. I get bored with the game when I die too much. But having a procedurally generated city every time gives you a whole new gameplay experience each time you die. So the idea is you learn more and get closer and closer to the prize, whatever that might be. But using procedural generation in a way that it's not just creating endless lands, but it's creating a different experience each time you play is something that I really quite like.
Yeah. When you die, it's not as if you have a new place and you have to start all over again. It's kind of like you've learned something and you carry that information over to the next playthrough. So I'd be really interested to see how they've done that.
But yes, and from there, shall we go on to Nidhogg 2?
Nidhogg 2. I've not got too much information on Nidhogg 2, but I've been following it very closely. So Nidhogg 2 is coming out on the 15th of August this year. It's the sequel to the very popular local multiplayer fencing game Nidhogg, and has a very interesting, and actually it's been quite controversial, new art style.
I like new art style. I think it's just more detailed and almost like it's a bit trippy. I like trippy games.
Yeah, well,
It was definitely a shock seeing that. Sort of the initial announcement of the new art style. It's definitely sort of unexpected.
yeah, I think the main thing that people were kind of odd about were the avatar, how the avatars look. Because I don't know what people imagine the avatars looked, because the original was an 8-bit version, so it was a lot less detail. But they're saying now that in this new, I guess I'd say 16-bit, might be a bit more, maybe 32 art style, it's very different from what they imagined. And I was a huge fan of Nidhogg. I think I'll probably be doing some research around Nidhogg, and so I'm really keen to get my hands on Nidhogg 2 and see how that is, because I felt like Nidhogg had a really cool idea, but it didn't have many levels or content.
It wasn't very elevated. This looks like an elevated version of the game to me.
Yeah, and I think that's always good. I think sequels always do well, because you build on the previous and you learn from the previous game.
I kind of like the look of the characters.
Controversial opinion time. I think I do prefer the art style of the first game myself.
Yeah.
Disagree.
But then I like pineapple on pizza, as we discussed earlier, so...
So your opinion doesn't actually matter. I really like the style. I think it's trippy. I think it looks a bit gory. I think it's beautiful. I'm looking at a bit of gameplay now with a little pink character. She's adorable. Even when she exploded and her eyes kind of flew into the air. I like it.
Yeah, I'm excited. Although the new style of the Nidhogg's terrifying. The new Nidhogg is actually genuinely terrifying.
I don't think it's terrifying.
I don't know. It creeps me out a lot.
He reminds me of sort of like a little troll.
I mean, they're like not like the game Nidhogg. I mean, as in the actual worm.
Yeah, the actual.
Yeah.
Oh wait, the big worm. So I'm looking at the main like orange character, going, well, that doesn't look. So the worm.
Yeah, the
I haven't seen the
Nidhogg worm.
That doesn't look great.
It's
well, I mean,
terrifying. I think it suits the style for sure. That's what. But it's just
Yes.
oh, wow. It's a little detailed.
I like it.
Oh, I'm looking forward.
That's
to
the type of scary I'm into.
I'm looking forward to it though so much. And then Jupiter, you want to talk about this one? This next big thing to look out for?
So, Party Hard 2 is an alpha. It's actually an alpha stage 2 right now as we're speaking. It's alpha sign up. You can sign up to play it. It's a sequel, much like Nidhogg, to Party Hard. Party Hard is a game that was made originally for a Game Jolt official game jam, and then it was polished up and released on Steam with the whole story aspect. Basically, you are a killer. You go to parties and you one by one kill people off in a way that you don't get caught and no one else sees. And if they see, someone else gets arrested, you hope. And you can kill people in all sorts of like insane ways, like through sort of exploding stoves and poisoning food to just stabbing them and hiding their bodies. I love Party Hard. I spent way too many hours playing and completing Party Hard. Fell in love with the game. And now they're creating a Party Hard 2, which looks like, again, an elevated version of Party Hard, the original game. From the website, it's a full-on sequel. It's a stealth strategy game about taking out people at parties. This time around, you're playing as a completely new protagonist who didn't get his Christmas bonus. The only logical thing to do is to go on a rampage at a corporate party. So Party Hard 2 is in a new engine. It's got 3D rendering environments with real-time shading and physics, but it still has sort of a pixel art look and feel to it. This game's got a lot more distraction on the screen, which is the only thing that I'm kind of concerned about watching the video. There's like this fog that comes up on the screen. I don't want my vision to be partially skewed at all times or at any times, but I think that having the story aspect taken to a new level and allowing me to kill more people would be great. I'm very excited. I haven't played the alpha because I want to wait for the full game to be out, but if you want to play the alpha, go sign up.
Yeah, I might do actually. It's interesting how much they've layered onto it now. I'm just looking at the one of the trailers on Steam with it's actually gameplay, how they've changed the 3D style, and it's not as if it's really surprising because I immediately I thought, wow, this is really different. Maybe I don't like it, but actually it's really good. It works really well, and
It is really good.
I really like this. I enjoyed Party Hard 1. I played it with some of my Twitch viewers who kept sending like bears or whatever. I think it was bears. They kept sending bears to ruin my parties, and so I'm hoping this has some Twitch integration too.
Probably will.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never played a game on Twitch with Twitch integration, but sure, yeah. Best game ever, it does. No, I'm really excited for Party Hard 2. It's one of the games that I'm watching this year, so yeah. If you don't mind, I'd also like to talk about the charity aspects of this. Is that all right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure. So away from games and onto a sort of really nice corner of indie games recently, I'm going to be talking about some charities stuff that's happened, so charity hype and whatnot.
Whoop.
So Games Done Quick recently did a Games Done Quick, and they raised £1.36 million for Medicines Sans Frontiers. So that's a 7-day-long speedrunning marathon, and it finished with £1,365,815 raised for Doctors Without Borders. If you've not seen the streams, it's basically just speed running loads and loads of games, and people who watch can bid on in-game features like the names of characters or items the characters can be holding and whatnot. And they raise a lot of money for charity and do a lot of good.
And the videos are absolutely insane.
Yeah, I really enjoyed those streams.
If you haven't watched speedrunning, it's a great place to start.
Oh, yes.
I also found it absolutely insane how many people were interested in actively watching. I remember the Twitch streams got up to probably about 400,000 people, and the last was it 400? It might be 40,000. It probably was about 40,000 rather than 400,000. Who knows? And last time that happened was the Destiny 2 stream reveal, and before then it's never reached that kind of height. And it was a lot of fun. It was nice. So the speedrunning community is huge, and I never really realized it until this stream. And it was so interesting to watch people play, and especially as a game programmer perspective, seeing the exploitations people know about and find, especially Super Mario 64. And so if you're kind of interested in that kind of stuff, I'd definitely recommend watching Games Done Quick. I think they have another fundraiser over winter at some point.
AGDQ.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, and it's nice that they managed to raise so much. I think they kept saying. I remember I was watching the stream when they were at 900,000, and they were saying, "Oh, let's see if we can get to 1 million, and we can do a blindfold speed run." And everyone was saying, "Nah, I can't get to 1 million." but did it within the next 2 hours after they said it.
Yeah, quite beyond 1 million. It's very good. They beat their own record of last year, so it's just great. But following that, the Meatly Games announced that they're supporting Girl Force. The Meatly Games, the developers of the horror game Bendy and the Ink Machine, which has sort of a cult following now. And they're now featured in Hot Topic. They've got like a whole clothing line of Bendy and the Ink Machine, like brand clothing, which looked really nice. And since they've got all this support behind their indie game, they've decided that they are supporting the nonprofit community Girl Force. And basically they teach game development skills to girls and women and non-binary folks in Idaho. So yeah, they donated like $5,000 to Girl Force, which is just really nice. It's a really nice thing to be supporting.
Yeah, that's really cool. Because you sent me that, and it's really interesting. Because I've heard of Bendy and the Ink Machine as well, but I didn't really know about it. So seeing them having a clothing line is really cool. But also
profiting so much that they could support others is always such a nice thing to see in the indie gaming community, especially. And the Meatly Games started off as sort of comics about game development, and then sort of went into some games that he's created. And this most recent one, there's now a Bendy and the Ink Machine 2. It's been so successful. It has a cult following, and they're able to do so much more. And it's just really nice to see them sort of giving back to the community.
So what's nice about the indie development scene.
But yes, Highmark raised $2 million for games that battle brain disease. So Highmark Interactive is a Canadian-based game startup, and it has completed a round of financial raising, $2 million. It was founded earlier this year. Highmark will specialize in games that help users cope with concussions, traumatic brain injuries, and even brain diseases. Its titles will educate players about these conditions as well as collect a variety of baseline neurologic functional data and facilitate the brain's healing. It sounds like they're going to be making just sort of titles that will teach people who don't have these illnesses about the illnesses.
Yeah.
Which sounds really, really interesting, actually.
Yeah. What's interesting for me, at least, is the crowdsourcing aspect of data. So one thing you start seeing a lot of in research, especially in research around games, is the crowdsourcing of information for different projects. There are plenty of different examples of this. One of which was a crowdsourcing information for nanoparticle treatments of cancer, where people built up their own nanoparticle treatments and saw how well they combated cancer without killing healthy cells. Another one was looking at the complex ways in which DNA can fold, and it's such a high dimensional problem that people can deal with that problem quite well, but computers can't. So they asked lots of people to play this game. I think it's called Fold It. And you see this more and more often in the research community because problems are getting more and more complex. Computers can't really handle them too well, but people are very good at handling them. So if you gamify this information in such a way that you can abstract key information, that it's super powerful. And so it's really cool to see that a company like Highmark Interactive are really trying hard to help build this data and facilitate this research.
There's a very interesting way to gain research as well. Yeah.
It's like the captures these days. You know, captures that are helping to train AIs to recognise things in pictures.
Yeah.
So it'll tell you select the cells that contain road signs or dresses or attack helicopters.
Yeah, then they have ones for writing in what's on the signs as well. So any that they're not certain about, they give you to type in which ones are which. Type in what's on the actual images.
It's how Google used to train their OCR software, I believe, isn't it? Where those old captures where they give you two words that were scanned in, and basically one was one it couldn't recognise, and one was one it already knew what the word was, just to check you weren't being silly. And then it would gather together what people said the unknown one was and go with the most popular option.
Yeah, it's all this kind of crowdsourcing is really popular in machine learning fields because you get loads of data that you can try and get machines to learn from. So that's why Google have been doing it. They also have something up at the moment, which is, I think it's about recognizing your drawings.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if either of you have tried it. It's actually quite a lot of fun.
I can't draw. I don't want it to try to recognize what I draw.
It's really good, actually, at drawing, getting the right names for what you're trying to draw. It's pretty fascinating how poor, because no one can draw well with just a mouse, I think. And the algorithm is actually really efficient at figuring out what you're trying to draw.
Oh, cool. Moving on from there, Wired Productions supports mental health charity Take This. So the game's publisher and developer, Wired Productions, they've made The Town of Light, and Victor Varan says it will take this next year supporting non-profit charity Take This. Take This was set up to provide education about various mental health disorders to reduce the stigma associated with mental illness. Wired elaborated, saying they will embark on a series of activities, including bike rides, an initiative that will offer a percentage from the sales of the Town of Light to the charity. So that's quite nice that they're going to be giving some of their profits to a charity that's going to sort of help the stigma around mental health.
Yeah, I think the Town of Light itself focuses around themes of this. I could be completely wrong.
So the Town of Light, it's about a 16-year-old girl who's ripped out of her world, locked up and deprived of everything. Her only fault was that she didn't know what her place in the world was. She was a danger to herself and others and a cause of public scandal, wrote the police headquarters. The only horror you'll find in this game is the truth. Blow to the solar pelvis, much more intense than any supernatural presence. So it's a psychological adventure told in the first person. The story is set in Italy in the first half of the 20th century, in a place which really existed and has been meticulously reconstructed inside the game. You can explore and interact with the environment. You will relive the history of the main character through a confused viewpoint, and on the basis of your choices, the story will develop in different ways. So, yeah, it seems like a very interesting sort of horror game. A little bit scary, a little bit creepy, but definitely fits in with the charity that they're supporting.
It's good. I think there's a lot of good work going on for mental illnesses, and so it's always good to see more being done, really.
Yes. So, lastly, I wanted to mention one special day, which is a day, an event that Special Effect is going to be putting on. Special Effect is a charity that gives disabled gamers the ability to game. So they create specialized hardware for disabled individuals so that they can continue to play games like people who are not disabled. And on the 29th of September, they're having one special day, which is basically, alright, I'm going to read this because it's easier. The 29th of September is one special day when the games industry can be loud and proud about leveling the playing field for gamers with disabilities. We're asking you to donate 100% to Special Effect. That's 100% of a day's sales of one or more games, advertising revenue, in-app purchases, or DLC. Or it could be 100% from a dedicated activity or promotion. It could be just one region or from all of your sales areas. No matter how big or small your company or where you are in the world, join us for that day, and it'll help transform lives. You'll be part of an industry-wide family that's proud to be gaming for good. So Gamerbake, in conjunction with this, have called for just anyone to create a sort of Gamerbake-style bake sale. Gamerbake is a gaming-themed bake sale that happens in and around the UK. And they've basically said they'll give out all their promotional materials and advertise your sort of gamer bake. And it can be in your office at work, or it can be you and some friends just raising some money and eating some sweets and donate it to Special Effect for part of their one special day. So you don't have to be necessarily a developer donating your profits. You can do a bake sale. You can sort of just give your ad revenue to them for the day, and just sort of a big boost in donations to them so that they can continue to help provide this equipment for gamers. I just really like Special Effect. It's a close charity to my heart, and Gamerbake is my favorite event ever, and yeah, wanted to mention it.
Oh, I'm very excited for Gamerbake.
I believe Gamerbake is planning on doing a Gamerbake and an official Gamerbake as well. But yes.
I don't know what I'm going to make. I need to have a think.
You gotta find out the theme first. Whatever you make, it's not gonna be as good as mine anyway, but
we'll see.
I do love Gamerbake.
Fun fact, a Gamerbake event is where I first met Jupiter.
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Yes, you're right.
Oh wow. So did you meet over a love of cake? Did you accidentally see each other going for the same slice of cake?
No. What? We reached in and our hands just touched, and it was like we're both married. This is weird. What's going on?
I just wanted a lemon drizzle.
It's like, oh my god, you like cake as well?
What a
It's
thought.
just so rare.
No, I believe we had chatted a little
dog-eat-dog
bit
world.
online before Gamerbake in the Twitter sphere. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just there's the first time we actually
Yeah, I didn't
met in
like
person.
trip into Kemp and was like, "Oh hey, who are you? Get out of my way!" Like,
Get out of my way, you're in the way of
yeah.
cake.
It just pushes me out the window.
No, but the first game that was the
Oh,
first
no,
Gamerbake I ever
I'm
went
so
to.
excited.
It was so fun. So yeah, Gamerbake's pretty fun. You should check it out. Consider doing something for one special day. Help an awesome charity. You can make a difference. Cool.
I will. I will make my own cakes for then and either eat them or sell them.
Well, I'm hoping you'll
I've not
if you eat
decided
them,
which.
donate to the charity.
I mean, yeah, of course, but
To just make cakes and eat them. That's not participating.
yeah, true. Eating and donating. I think that'll be it.
Yes.
That's what I'll do.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Quite a range of charity stuff then this month.
Yeah, it's really nice actually. That's why I thought we'd do a little. That's why it looked like it was good to do a little separate section, since there was a lot of money being raised.
Yes. So much charity. So many good things.
Yeah, and it's also really nice to highlight this kind of stuff as well, because I think it's important.
Oh yeah, I mean people need recognition for doing these things. It's a really good thing for them to do.
And we've got some fun news actually. These are some quite interesting and fun stories that came up throughout the month, and I thought that would be good for highlighting. One of them isn't even an indie story, but I thought it was just weird. So the first one is that Tim Garbos, a game developer, spent some time on Twitter sharing some fun facts that he's mined from the Steam Spy data. And some
Now,
were...
there's a lot of developers sort of getting very nervous when you say something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully some of these are quite innocent, but there are some claims he found, such as a good game title is probably about 6 characters long, as average amount of owners based on title length was pretty much highest for 6, with some titles at 76 and 78 characters selling almost just as well. So
78 characters.
yeah, 78 characters. There was
Wow.
he explained which one what the longest title was. Let me see if I can find it.
I guess I should point out for the nervous people. I should point out for the nervous developers out there. These are very tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
Obviously, like making a title 6 characters long will not make it sell better.
No, exactly.
No. It's just some coincidences.
The longest title, I just found it here, was Tales of Monkey Island Complete Pack, Chapter 4, The Trial and Execution of Guybrush Threepwood.
All right.
So that was the longest one. Let's see, what else was there? There was the Darkness of Steam Games, based on screenshots either being dark or bright. 2006 had the darkest Steam games. For some reason, there was a huge jump at 2006 and 2007, and then it kind of leveled out. Some other ones included the Color of Steam Games, based on screenshots, showed that the fewest Steam game, purple was the least used color, and red and yellow were the most used color. So he said, stand out by making your screenshots more green, unless it's tag golf, which is the greenest tag on Steam.
See, that's interesting.
There's quite a few interesting little tidbits.
See, my natural assumption is that brown and grey are the most common colours.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think brown gets binned in with red, because he also said that pink is also binned into red too. So like skin colours are put into the red category, and then black, I imagine, is where grey is.
I like how he has all of these little stars and warnings on a lot of his data going, this is a quick thing that I looked at, not serious.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, this is just a kind of joke, you know.
Yeah, the whole thing needs a big sort of correlation does not imply causation disclaimer on it.
But it is quite interesting.
Exactly, yeah. It's still really cool. If you're really into data and stuff and into games, I'd recommend having a look at it.
Another really funny thing, the next point you have is just hilarious and sort of epic.
It's my favourite story from the month so far. Not to hype it up too much. So should I go on? Should I talk about this?
What's your favorite? Yeah.
Yes, okay, so Anthem. You might have seen Anthem at E3 this year. It's a sci-fi infused co-op-focused multiplayer online shooter with gorgeous visuals and jetpacks. And you may have seen it, like I said, at E3. Very kind of almost for me, it was very similar to Destiny. Whereas, so they've got to, they're now looking at marketing since the game's close to coming out. And one of the marketing techniques, it seems to be that they've decided to sponsor a corn maze, such that they have an Anthem character made as a corn maze. And so, that's kind of interesting as it is. But the thing that I really like is the reason they put behind it. So, it's kind of hard to put Anthem, a, co-op focused multiplayer online shooter, and a corn maze together, hand in hand. And game director John Warner said that, what better way to show the growth of a new game than through corn, which also grows. So,
Flawless logic.
It's exactly, it's perfect. It's perfect.
The maze looks epic, though. I love corn mazes.
Does.
You guys don't do corn mazes in England, do you?
No, there are some garden census of mazes, but not many.
So it's like corn, but you walk through it, and it's a maze, and it's great. And then afterwards it gets chopped down and fed to cows. This is hilarious.
I've been in exactly one corn maze in my life, and that was in America.
I've been in like
Really?
50. I've done one every year when I was in America. I mean, I love
never
corn
been in one.
mazes. I cut my hand open on a corn leaf in a corn maze on a school trip, and had to
On a leaf?
be taken out of
God.
the corn maze from this paper cut. And, it was ridiculous. I was very upset. But
Did you have to get airlifted?
no. But I think that it's hilarious that they went through all this effort. It's definitely a quite interesting promotional sort of way to get a huge, almost piece of art of your game that then goes after a limited amount of time. So I thought this was pretty interesting. Their design actually came out quite good.
Yeah, it looks really good, actually.
The
The announcement video was good as well.
It was funny.
Yeah, YouTube. Don't read the YouTube comments though.
I did.
You never read YouTube comments.
No, not unless you kind of enjoy that kind of thing.
No one enjoys it.
Yeah, true. That's true. But yeah, there's the fun news. I'm hoping that there'll be more fun news. I'm sure there are. This industry's full of
Full of fun.
quirky things. Exactly. You know what they say about working in the games industry? It's full of fun. The next pieces now are just kind of things that I thought would be interesting to talk about, and then anything you guys wanted to bring up as well. We could just have a discussion about different things going on in the games industry right now.
Can I interrupt before we get to that?
Yes.
Ooh.
Because I realise there's a game I should have brought up earlier. Have you seen Sundered?
You've missed your chance. We've moved on.
I know.
It's over.
I'm disrupting the entire concept of this podcast.
We're structured for a reason. No, I'm just kidding. I've not. It looks kind of creepy.
Oh, I have heard of Sundered.
I will drop a link over to you guys in case you want to quickly look. But basically, it's a hand-drawn art style. It's a sort of rogue something. I'm sure it has some suffix after rogue. But basically, the maps themselves have fixed points, like certain boss rooms and various other rooms will be fixed places, but everything else is randomly generated around those. So your map has familiar points each time, but you'll get there in different ways.
That's interesting.
Ah.
Yeah, the powers, basically you have the option of what they call corrupting your powers. So you can become much more powerful, but the more you do that, like the less human you are and the worse the ending you'll get. So to get the best ending, you have to essentially do a run with the least powerful options almost. And
That is interesting.
I love the art style. The bosses are absolutely huge. There's some ridiculous bosses in there.
That art style is just so gorgeous. I can't believe I missed this.
No, you're fired.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
See you
I'm
later,
just
guys.
kidding. Goodbye. Leave now. Pack your bag.
I'm done.
No, this does look pretty neat.
Yeah, go check it out.
But back to our
Back to the regular schedule that was before it was interrupted.
So rudely.
I'm gonna interrupt it again and go. Let's skip this nonsense about Rocket League.
Fair enough.
Awesome.
That's fair enough.
Everyone knows Rocket League.
Fuck Rocket League.
Everyone knows Rocket League. Just Rocket League's done super well.
Don't care.
That's it.
Next,
Done.
not an indie game. Move on.
This one was quite interesting to me. I don't know about you.
I couldn't get my mind around this one.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but for me it's super cool and super interesting, especially because I'm interested in mathematics and physics in games. The developer of a 4D puzzle platformer, Mark 10 Bosch, released a 4D toy box on the 14th of July. And 4D toy box is basically a little physics toy box that allows you to mess around with objects and understand how a 4-dimensional engine works.
Attempt to understand how a fourth dimension.
Attempt to, yes. It's an interactive toy for iOS and PC.
Yes, this is a digital one. You got as far as released a 4D toy box, and I was immediately like, what?
Yeah, exactly. It's so incredible how this works. And
It's a lovely
so this
video
guy-
explaining it. Not
Yes.
that I understood what he was talking about, but
yeah, it's interesting. If you're interested in this kind of physics stuff, I'd recommend playing it. If the idea intrigues you but you have no idea about it, then I'd recommend watching the video. The video is called 4D Toys, a box of 4-dimensional toys and how objects bounce around in a 4-dimensional space. So basically, Mark 10 Bosch is making a 4D puzzle platformer called Miyagakure. And whilst doing it, someone joked to him saying he should make a 4D physics engine, and he did. Because he apparently seems like the kind of guy who just makes these out of nowhere, which is incredible. And so he made it for people to kind of understand to kind of get a better understanding of how the fourth dimension works. And I thought that was just a really interesting piece of kit that someone made up.
yes.
If you
I agree.
can get your head around it.
I'm definitely going to check that one out.
Yeah, I don't know how much it is.
That's very, very interesting. I like in his video, he's like, "Oh, it slipped into the fourth dimension." Whoops. What? What's going on? How are the things? Speaking of things I don't understand.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next topic. Ludum Dare 39 just ended.
Woo!
And,
You understand that?
I don't understand how anyone can create a game in 48 hours or 72 hours and how so many people create such amazing little pieces in 48 hours and 72 hours. Ludum Dare is the biggest online game jam. They just had the 39th edition. It's a quarterly game jam, so it's like 4 a year. People are submitting their games and rating games. If you've submitted a game and this is just me advertising myself. If you've submitted a game and you want me to play it, find me on Twitter and tweet at me and I'll give you my sheet to enter it on. I'll be playing 600 games. I'd encourage everyone to vote on each other's games because each game needs 20 votes for their game to get a score in Ludum Dare. And there's a thing called Feedback Friends. If you Google Feedback Friends Ludum Dare, you will find a way that organizes the games so that you can tell which ones need rating to gain a score. The last Ludum Dare, not a lot of games that I loved got scores, so please rate games. Please rate the games.
Everyone loves a score.
Yes. So that's how I feel about Ludum Dare 39. The theme was running out of power. It should be really interesting seeing all the different entries and what everyone created.
Yeah, I never knew about Feedback Friends, but I definitely want to have a go at it. I was supposed to do Ludum Dare, but at the moment I've got an intense project working on, and I didn't really want to work on more coding over the weekend.
Fair enough.
But I'm definitely going to have a go at Feedback Friends, have a go at playing some of the games and rating some of them. Because I think...
You can't rate unless you've entered.
Well...
Oh, yep.
Well,
Nope.
Nope. That's the worst.
Yep, you're the worst.
So what you're saying is I need to write a game for 40 in order to be able to rate things.
Yes,
Yes.
you'll need to make a game.
Well,
Yes.
when 40 rolls around, I guess it has to happen
In 4
then.
months. In December.
In 4 months in December.
Oh, wait, November. I feel like it's in December. Yeah, because this one's early. This one's in July. It's early. No, the next one should be in December if they follow their normal pattern. This one was a bit early because Gamescom and Insomnia and loads of events are next month. So they moved this one forward to not clash.
Are you guys going to Insomnia or Gamescom?
I'm going to Gamescom.
Because I know Jupiter's going to Gamescom.
I
I'm going to
will
Gamescom.
not be.
No, I'm going to Insomnia.
Oh, I was going to go to Insomnia. Now I'm going to Gamescom.
Well,
Um,
you're in. You got to go abroad, so I don't blame you.
So Gamescom is sort of like an E3 type event. I've never been before, but it's in Germany. I will be going there as press to cover indie games and to judge the Big Indie Pitch, which is a sort of event around an event. So it's an event around Gamescom where developers bring their mobile apps and pitch them sort of speed dating style to a bunch of judges, one of which will be me, and I judge you.
It's just so hard.
Yep.
The judging is real.
Insomnia
Insomnia
is an event I have been to.
It's built, and Insomnia was originally, I think, a big LAN thing, which
Party.
big LAN party, which kind of snowballed into a big conference where there are lots of content creators, lots of games to play. Even now they have board games and stuff there, which I guess is kind of expected. But last time I went, they had a music shop there selling guitars. They had amps being sold. They get loads of very different things.
Game Boys.
Yes.
Tons of cool stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool. And people generally kind of bring their own computer and play in a big hall with their monitors and lots of different games. Wow.
There is an indie section. It's a small indie section compared to other events, but the games that they normally hand select almost are very nice.
I'll be there. I'll be in the indie section helping my friend show off his game.
And I'm sure it is very nice.
Yeah. I'm hoping if you're going to be there, feel free to drop in and say hey.
No, I'm going to be at Gamescom.
I mean, if anyone listening is
Oh, so I was like, what? We just went through this. I'm definitely not going to be there. I'm not coming back to England for a couple of days.
Oh, why not? Why am I even going?
Germany.
Why am I even going?
Why are you going? No, have fun in Insomnia, and yeah, feel free. If you see me at Gamescom, say hello. If you see, what's the name of your friend's game?
Warp Ball.
Waterball?
Warp Ball, as in like warping.
Warp. Okay, because I was like, he's saying
Yep.
water really weirdly. Go say hi to Joseph.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And the last thing we have to talk about is another thing that I'm sort of going to gush about. I'm going to say it wrong, though. I call them Zines. The rest of the world calls them Zines for whatever reason.
Because it's the end of the word magazine.
So there's a bunch of Zines. Oh, no, it's about Zine. Look at the way no. There's a couple of Zines coming up, and there's something that I kind of keep my eye on. The first one being the Trash Zine, or the Trash Zine. And their description is there are a lot of people making weird experimental indie games. However, it's hard to get featured on gaming sites, and even harder to discover an obscure game maker whose work will particularly resonate with you. We are a bunch of people from around the world with a common goal, showcasing fascinating, small, independent game developers. Trash Zine is about the unknown. Trash Zine is about MS Paint graphics and barely any gameplay, but also about procedurally text-based slime robots. Trash Zine is about showing how diverse and unexpected the game development scene is. So Trash Zine is going to be completely free to download on itch. They're planning on releasing the initial volume by August of 2017, and they also have a load of like interviews and stuff. I'm kind of in their chat where they're creating everything, and it just looks like such a big amount of potential in this little Zine, and I'm really excited for all of the trash games that are going to be in it.
Definitely going to be a really interesting one to look at.
I'm sure there'll be tons of gems that no one's heard of, and it'll be great to check them out.
Yeah, and you'll find them and you'll be like, look at all this stuff. This is so cool.
So much stuff.
So much cool stuff.
And another Zine, so I'm just going to kind of talk about these quickly, is the Proc Jam. It has a Zine called Seeds. And basically, the Proc Jam is a procedural generation game jam. It's a laid-back game jam that happens in November. First, there are a load of talks about procedural generation from some industry experts. And then they have a sort of game jam. It's a very relaxed game jam. And alongside of the talks and the tutorials and the art that they have created for this really well-rounded jam, they have a zine. And it's called Seeds. And it's taking submissions. And so from the page, it says you can write about anything you'd like, write about a game you're making or what you made for Proc Jam last year or what you hope to make this year. Write about an idea you've had, something that inspires you, a question you can't answer, or a new technique that you've learned. Tell us anything you feel passionate about saying. We'd love to hear about it. And you don't have to write it in English. You can write it in any language. It doesn't even have to be an article. It can be some beautiful procedural generated pictures that you've created and you love and you want to share it with us. I'm a big part of the Proc Jam, specifically this zine. I am one of the people who put it all together. I put together the last the last one from last year's Seeds issue 1. And just had a really wonderful time putting together all the submissions and creating this 100-page magazine, basically. So I'm really looking forward to submissions. If you have anything you want to write about, please check out the website and submit it so that we can look at it and include it. Everything that gets submitted gets included, and it's really, really a wonderful place.
Can you call it a zine when it's 100 pages
Yeah,
long?
well, that's a good question. How about you not judge or...
No, I think you need to upgrade to, like, full book.
Yeah, I mean, really, but yeah, I don't know. We got a lot of submissions last year. It was intense.
An anthology.
Hopefully this one this year.
Oh, I'm very tempted to submit.
Submit. I get to read it over, judge it, and then stylize it on a page.
And then be like, oh, wait, this is Joe's. Oh, no.
And we've already received a couple of submissions. They're wonderful. You have quite some time to submit. So if you would like more details, check out procjam.com/seeds and read all about it.
I'm going to have a look now.
You should. And you should submit.
Everyone's heard you saying you should submit now. You have to.
Yeah, you have to.
Damn, I shouldn't have said it.
You can check out issue 1 as well, which has a lot of amazing insight on procedural generation.
Amazing.
And yes.
I love procedural generation.
Same.
Thing is, I love all technical stuff in anything, to be fair. So whatever it is, I would jump on it so quick.
I will admit there's a part of me that could just sit there and look at things like, you know, the GIFs of cities being procedurally generated and that sort of thing. I could just watch those for hours.
Yeah, they're really gorgeous. I'm tempted to have a look at doing procedural generated shaders.
You should, and then you should write about it for Seeds.
Yeah, I will. I want to learn how to use shaders, so this is also exciting.
Cool. But yes, that is everything we have. Sorry?
I was going to say, can I insert the most random piece of small news?
Sure.
This came across my feed ages ago, actually, but it got retweeted today. There's a game, Pixel Cup Soccer.
Okay.
It's a football game, basically. But the dev is asking for small, like, 200 by 30 pixel logos to go around the edges of the pitch. Just any random indie game developer is open to throw in little designs for advertising to go around the edge of the pitch there, which I think is really cool.
So if you'd like to advertise your game, there you go.
That's really cool. That's an awesome idea.
Yeah, I thought I'd just throw it out there as I got reminded about it today. So
what a great way to get content for your game and help out others.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Like you said, it's good for, you know, actually getting some content in your game without having to spend too much time on it, but also helping others show off their games. I guess that's all the news then.
Yes, that is everything that's happened. Ever.
That's everything that's happened in the month of July
Congrats.
2017.
Ever. So, yes.
it's all that's allowed to happen.
Ever.
Everything has
Done.
to stop now until the next podcast.
That's it. That's all that's happening ever.
So, in closing, I'd just like to reiterate that this was our first episode of this. So, if there is any news that you'd want to contribute to our next podcast, or if there is any comments or any suggestions on what we should do or what we could do better, please do let us know in the comments or by emailing Joseph. His info will probably be in the description. Whether you're watching this on iTunes or SoundCloud or on YouTube, this will be in the description. And if you are watching this on iTunes or SoundCloud, rate it well. And if you're on YouTube, like it. I'm sure all of that helps in many ways. Yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed this and you found some new games to check out and some new interesting things to take a look at and think about.
We hope you feel a bit more, kind of know a bit more about the community behind games, especially independent games. And know more about the big things that everyone's talking about as well. Should we also talk about the Discord as well?
Oh, yeah, probably. Also,
if people would like to hang out.
Yeah, if you have something that you want to say, if you want to provide feedback, or if you just want to hang out and poke us, feel free to join the Discord. Again, there'll be links in the description, and you can just chat and contribute and hang out.
Perfect.
So thank you very much, Joseph and Kemp, for agreeing to this. I hope you both have had a good time.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you very much for having me.
No worries.
Yeah, it was good over here.
And you can check them out on Twitter.
Everything goes in the description below, as they say.
Links will be in the description. Links of everything will just be in the description.
No, yeah, put it all in the description.
But you guys can say your Twitter handles if you want.
Yeah, my Twitter handle is @Heskethjoseph. That's HESKETHJOSEPH. I'll usually be tweeting out any kind of technical, interesting games dev stuff, as well as interesting games I'm looking forward to. Feel free to hit me a follow, and if you have any news or anything, feel free to message me on Twitter as well.
Kemp, would you like to share your Twitter?
Yeah, I am Kemp Plays, after my old defunct YouTube channel. It'll be a random mix of gaming news and a few technical things, and apparently I veer very randomly into self-help and that sort of thing. It happens, I guess. So yeah, the strange mix of things you'll see if you follow me.
And I am at Jupiter_Hadley on Twitter, like everywhere else, and I tweet about indie games and lots of game jams. So many game jams. But yeah, I think that's all.
Jupiter's just wall-to-wall game jams.
Wall-to-wall game jams. All right. Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.